Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari. Do you know how to turn it down? Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Jai Mr. Bad Paramahansa, Parudikacharya Ashtotar to the Srimad Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBD Founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa, Parudikacharya Ashtotar to the Srimad. His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Isopanisad Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this first day of July 2019 in San Diego, we're reading from Sri Isopanisad, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are in mantra 4, and we should complete this one today. Anejarekam manaso javiyo Nainan deva apnuvan purvam arshat Tadndavato jnanat yeti tishtat Tasmin apo mata rishvadadhati. Let's try to chant a little bit together. Those who like to go fast, go a little slower. Those who like to go slow, try to speed up a little bit. Anejarekam manaso javiyo. Anejarekam manaso javiyo. Nainan deva apnuvan purvam arshat. Tadndavato jnanat yeti tishtat. Tasmin apo mata rishvadadhati. Anejarekam manaso javiyo. Nainan deva apnuvan purvam arshat. Tadndavato jnanat yeti tishtat. Tasmin apo mata rishvadadhati. Anejarekam manaso javiyo. Nainan deva apnuvan purvam arshat. Tadandhavatonyanapjeti tishtat. Tasmin napo mata dishvadadhati. Anejarekam manaso javiyo. Nainan deva apnuvan purvam arshat. Tadandhavato jnanatjeti tishtat. Tasmin napo mata dishvadadhati. Go ahead, Deva. Anejadekam manaso javiyo. Nainan deva apnuvan purvam arshat. Tadandhavato jnanatjeti tishtat. Tasmin napo mata dishvadadhati. You want to find Jamal? Oh, Damodar, I didn't see you there. Anejarekam manaso javiyo. Naina deva apnuvan. Go ahead. Chant that second line again. Nainan deva apnuvan purvam arshat. Tad davato. Tad. Tadandhavato jnanatjeti tishtat. Tasmin napo mata dishvadadhati. Ladies? Anejarekam manaso javiyo. Nainan deva apnuvan purvam arshat. Tadandhavato jnanatjeti tishtat. Tasmin napo mata dishvadadhati. Okay, we already did these synonyms. I'll read the translation and we'll go to the fourth paragraph of the purport. Although fixed in his abode, the personality of Godhead is swifter than the mind and can overcome all others running. The powerful demigods cannot approach him. Although in one place he controls those who supply the air and rain, he surpasses all in excellence. And so Srila Prabhupada, having explained the energies of Krishna, how he's in one place and his energies are all pervading, then he says in the fourth paragraph, in the Bhagavad Gita 10.2, the Lord says that not even the great rishis and suras can know him. And what to speak of the asuras, for whom there is no question of understanding the ways of the Lord. This fourth mantra of Sri Isopanisad very clearly suggests that the absolute truth is ultimately the absolute person. Otherwise, there would have been no need to mention so many details in support of his personal features. Although the individual parts and parcels of the Lord's marginal potency have all the symptoms of the Lord himself, they have limited spheres. Oh, dang. Oh, well. Although the individual parts and parcels of the Lord's marginal potency have all the symptoms of the Lord himself, they have limited spheres of activity and are therefore all limited. The parts and parcels are never equal to the whole. Therefore, they cannot appreciate the Lord's full potency. Under the influence of material nature, foolish and ignorant living beings, who are but parts and parcels of the Lord, try to conjecture about the Lord's transcendental position. Sri Isopanisad warns of the futility of trying to establish the identity of the Lord through mental speculation. One should try to learn of the transcendence from the Lord himself, the supreme source of the Vedas. For the Lord alone has full knowledge of the transcendence. Every part and parcel of the complete whole is endowed with some particular energy to act according to the Lord's will. When the part and parcel living entity forgets his particular activities under the Lord's will, he is considered to be in Maya, or illusion. Thus, from the very beginning, Sri Isopanisad warns us to be very careful to play the part designated for us by the Lord. This does not mean that the individual soul has no initiative of his own. Because he is part and parcel of the Lord, he must partake of the initiative of the Lord as well. When a person properly utilizes his initiative, or active nature, with intelligence, understanding that everything is the Lord's potency, he can revive his original consciousness, which was lost due to association with Maya, the external energy. All power is obtained from the Lord. Therefore, each particular power must be utilized to execute the will of the Lord and not otherwise. The Lord can be known by one who has adopted such a submissive service attitude. Perfect knowledge means knowing the Lord in all his features, knowing his potencies, and knowing how these potencies work by his will. These matters are described by the Lord in the Bhagavad Gita, the essence of all the Upanishads. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakya Chakshu Unmilatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So I remember seeing once a document Srila Prabhupada had written, which was a list of many of the verses in the Bhagavad Gita. I forget how, maybe it was the most famous ones or something. It was at least 100. And each one he was categorizing in this one of three categories: Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojana. I think we talked about this last time in a recent class. And these are different kinds of knowledge. It's called Sambandha Gyan, Abhideya Gyan, Prayojana Gyan. It means understanding these three different progressive stages, actually, of bhakti. So, Srila Prabhupada is talking here about the fall of the jiva, about how we forgot all of these things. He mentions that how we become covered over by Maya, by illusion. When the part and parcel living entity forgets his particular activities under the Lord's will, he is considered to be in Maya or illusion. So that means that we forget all about what these things are: Sambandha, Jnana, Abhideya, and Prayojana. So let's run through them again. As Prabhupada mentions here, let's see. Oh yeah. Perfect knowledge means knowing the Lord in all his features, knowing his potencies, and knowing how these potencies work by his will. That's the essence of Sambandha Gyan. Sambandha has different meanings. It means relationship, and it also has to do with the final goal of understanding our intimate and personal relationship with Krishna and acting in that relationship. But mostly it refers to the first stage, where you understand these three things: the Lord, his energies, ourselves, we're part of that energies, and the relationships between those. That's Sambandha Gyan. Sambandha means relationship or bondage. Yeah, they're bound together. So the first lesson that Krishna gives in Bhagavad Gita is part of the Sambandha Gyan. Is what are you? What is our actual nature? And the answer is, because we're matter, not spirit. You're not the body, you're spirit soul. And then later he'll analyze in detail what the body is and what all this matter is in these 7 categories I mentioned last night. Bhuma, Apo, Onalo, Vayu, Kang, Mano, Buddhadevacha, Ankariyati, and Binna, Prakritirashtada. These 7 comprise my separated energies. This is it's important. These are all Krishna's energies. So what are they? Well, what we experience every day. We don't think twice about it. The solid matter, the liquids, whether it's milk or water or anything in between. The gas, right? And radiant energy, such as it's light and heat and electricity. That's part of it. Even the fire of digestion is said to be part of that energy, that radiant energy. So Bhuma, Apo, Onalo, Vayu, and then come, which is the space that encompasses all these, is known as ether. Then even more subtle, they get more and more subtle as you go up. Mind, intelligence, discrimination, and the most subtle of all is ego. And it's that false ego that is the interface between the soul and material world. If we're in our real ego, our real sense of self, then we're with Krishna in the spiritual world or in Vaikuntha. We understand ourselves to be the eternal servants of the Lord, and we act in that capacity, and we're nicely situated. But when, by some reason or other, we develop envy of Krishna, and we want to compete with him, then we turn our back on him, and we turn our face toward all of this material energy comprised of those 8 energies. And we get enthralled with that, and we establish a false ego. And that false ego, in contact with these energies and conducted by the different modes of nature, produces the whole creation that we're in now, including our own bodies and everything else. This is nicely described in the 3rd canto by Kapila Muni. How the false ego is that interface by which we're conditioned. So, Srila Prabhupada deals with some of these subjects here. So, first of all, who can actually know this? How can we become enlightened? Not even the great rishis and suras or devotees or saints can know him. Can know him in full. Can know him in full. Krishna reveals himself proportionately to our sincerity in acting in devotion. The whole program of Bhakti Yoga depends on what we call the service attitude. I heard Prabhupada say this in a tape, and you can see that. A devotee comes in, and and how is he doing? Oh, he's doing very nicely. He has a nice service attitude. It means that he's eager to do service, to learn how to do other services, and so forth. You see. Whereas the ordinary person, that's the last thing they want to do. Yeah, I'll serve. What's the salary? It's not really service. So on the material side, the false ego, everything is mediated by what's benefit for me. In other words, service even though it says service station and how can we serve you, and the waitresses and the waiters, it's not really service. It's the mode of service trying to convince you that, but there's always some amelioration. That's why they're serving. So the mood of the spiritual world is that we're in our constitutional position, and that we're naturally happy in serving Krishna. Just as the hand is nice and happy and nicely situated when it does what I want. If it suddenly doesn't do what I want, it can't do what I want, or it's doing its own thing, that's a problem for me. So that's how we got to the material world. We became a problem, not for Krishna so much, but for all the other devotees up there. We create discord that ruins the mood, So we have to be exiled, put into a reformatory. That's the material world. Prabhupada is referring to the Bhagavad Gita 10.2 here. In Bhagavad Gita 7.27, near the end of the chapter, there's this verse that Prabhupada would quote often, and he would quite often describe it. This is the description of how we came to the material world. With that kind of a question that keeps arising. Well, how did we get here anyway? And we want to go back to Godhead. Well, how did we get here? So Prabhupada describes, he says, Itcha dvesha samutena dvandva mohena bharata sarva bhutani sammohan sargeyanti parantava. The word sargeyanti, one of the main meanings is comes into the creation. So this is, Prabhupada took it, this is the description. So Itcha dvesha, what Itcha dvesha means desire and repulsion. Desire and hate is described as it. Samutena. So arising from desire and hate. What is arising from it? Dvandva moha, the delusion of duality. The delusion of duality has different meanings. It means heat and cold, pleasure and pain. But it also means the understanding of a reality separate from Krishna. That's the problem. That's the big illusion. That there's some reality separate from Krishna. Krishna's emphasizing again and again in the Gita, and we hear right here, that everything is simply an emanation of his energies, either spiritual or material. He's all-pervading. That's the very meaning of the word Vishnu. Is all-pervading in every atom, in every heart. So where is there not Krishna? There's not, but we don't see him. in our ignorance and in our illusion, there's no God here. And people have this idea that there's no God, or God is up in heaven, but he's not here, or all kinds of misconceptions. So that's the Dvandva Moha. It arises from our desire to enjoy sense gratification and our hatred or our resistance to serving Krishna. Ishadurna samutena, Dvandva Mohena, and by that Dvandva Moha, Sarva Bhutani, all living entities here are bewildered by that particular bewilderment. We have our own variety of bewilderment, but it's all in that category of Maya, or illusion. And because of that, Sarva Bhutani, all living entities who are here, that means all conditioned souls, some moham, bewildered, sargayanti, paranta, or Arjun, they come into this world. So that's Prabhupada's description of how we came to the material world. So how do you get out of it? So obviously you have to reverse the process. Instead of turning our back on Krishna and trying to enjoy this so-called energy that's separate from him, but that's really not separate from him, we have to use that very energy, which includes our own bodies and minds and intelligences and whatever else we have, to connect with Krishna again. To force the mind, which is conditioned under the modes of nature, and which wants to look for things for enjoyment. It's an agent of Maya. It's, to force that mind by superior intelligence that's been purified by hearing the Shastra and the Guru and the Sadhus, to engage our gross body and whatever else we have in the service of Krishna. A million places we could go. We've all chosen to be here at this time at the feet of Radha Giridhari. We can see them. We can hear the Bhagavatam. We chant Hare Krishna. The mind is also rebelling. We're not all completely absorbed at 100% on the Hare Krishna mantra. But we're trying. We're telling the mind, no, think, go chant like this. So that's the remedy. And do I want to serve Krishna? Yeah, sometimes a little bit. It's not pure devotion yet, but we're serving Krishna to however much we can, and with enthusiasm we can. And by that service, you become purified so that it becomes more spontaneous. You really want to serve Krishna. And Krishna gives you the intelligence by which you can improve the service, by which you can do it nicely. This was Prabhupada's genius. Came to a place where nobody knew anything about Krishna. Rather than trying to beat against the wall of those people who thought they knew everything about Krishna in India. He had a much better field in the streets of New York than he did in the streets of Delhi. Because everybody knows Krishna there. In other words, they thought they knew Krishna, and they were resistant to what he was doing. So he came to America, and he found some people who were receptive of the message and were willing to actually start the process. And miracle of miracles, that Prabhupada was amazed. Actually follow the 4 regular principles. Take that step, which is a big surrender. So Krishna reserves the right of not being visible. Therefore, the rishis and the suras cannot know him. How can they know him? Only by bhakti. He reveals himself proportionately. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavanyas-chasmi tattvataha. To the degree that we're actually sincerely trying to serve Krishna, he will proportionally reveal himself. And proportionately, blessing of blessings, detach us more from matter. But they both go together. It's right at the beginning of Bhagavatam, 2nd chapter. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojataha Janayat Yashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayirahoitukam. It's like Sutta Goswami is describing what is the real dharma. There's so many dharmas. People engaging in this dharma, that dharma. But what's that dharma that can fully satisfy the soul? So you're not looking for any other dharma. So he's describing in the previous verse that it's that dharma which awakens our natural bhakti for Krishna, our natural love for Krishna. And what kind of bhakti? Ahoituki, no business. I'll go to church and pray and glorify the Lord now. Please, give me this, give me that. No, just for the pleasure of serving the Lord, for His interest, and uninterrupted. It's a high standard, unmotivated and uninterrupted. But this is what completely satisfies the soul. And so even when you begin the bhakti, Vasudeve Bhagavati, Vasudeva is Krishna. Bhagavati, Bhakti Yoga, and you engage in Bhakti Yoga. Janayati means generate. You can easily remember that word. Everyone can memorize that in Sanskrit word. Janayati, generate. Janayat asu, quickly. Vairagam, detachment from material things. And knowledge, they go together. Now, how can we experience that? We've all experienced it. As soon as you start chanting and reading, and chanting and reading, associating with devotees, it doesn't have to be for a long time. You can feel the fire of your attraction for all the things that you know you shouldn't be doing diminishing. It's diminishing, And it cuts to the point where it's like, how did I ever do that? Wow, can't even think of it. I mean, I can still remember all those years ago, and I was just a regular meat eater, smoking and this and that, That was just what I did. Everyone else was doing it, But now it's like, I can't even imagine it. Now they're coming out with all of this fake meat, that's vegetable meat, The last thing devotees want to eat, I mean, they've had stuff like that for years, soy protein, it looks like a hamburger. So I don't want to even think about that, Give me a pakora, I don't want to be reminded that I used to eat meat, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, so what happened? Obviously something changed. The desire for intoxication, meat, illicit sex, and all these things, it actually becomes less and less. The more and more that you cultivate Krishna consciousness. That's Krishna's blessing. That's right. So that means that, if you make the effort to turn toward Krishna, he gives you all kinds of facility for turning toward him. Prabhupada famously said, if you may take one step toward Krishna, he takes 10 steps toward you. He says, out of all these millions and billions of souls, forget the human beings, every soul. Here's this soul who, has actually chanted my name or has opened that book by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So Krishna, he facilitates. And that's what this movement is all about. So, Isopanisad warns of the futility of trying to establish the identity of the Lord through mental speculation. So this is a theme that Prabhupada, constantly preached, is that we have to have a genuine source of knowledge about Krishna, which can then properly enlighten us. There's some people right behind that door. What's going on with them out there? Oh, is that what's going on? Okay. So Prabhupada, wrote his books precisely for that reason. That there was no there you were. I could see all the shadows going on. You're trying to take it. No, we don't have any chairs. Do you need a chair? Oh, we have one chair. So what is Prabhupada wrote these books beginning, in India, even before he wrote the Bhagavatam. He was writing Back to Godhead magazine. He started it in 1944, because there's a tremendous need for genuine literature that can give you the truth about Krishna, because the part of what Maya is that you speculate and you mix in your material desires to your theological ideas that you got, and you produce something that's not actually genuine, but nobody knows, and they take it to be what it is. Prabhupada would rail against these Bhagavat Saptaha. Who can say what that is? Raise your hand. Yes. 7-day readings of Bhagavatam. And why 7 days? Well, that was the first reading, right? That was Shukadev. Okay, let's do one like that. No eating, no drinking, no sleeping. 7 days times 24 hours. Sit there. We're going to read the whole Bhagavatam. That's it. No, that's not what they do. They have 7 sessions. Probably starting late in the morning and ending early in the evening. And it's always like the rasa dance, and all this stuff, which is the pinnacle of the whole Bhagavatam. But it's like, you go into college and you're right away you want to study advanced physics. It doesn't work that way, So Prabhupada would criticize. This is a way in which people think that they're getting the genuine thing, but they're being cheated, by someone who's fancy at speaking. Prabhupada, or someone actually saw this happen. where someone was speaking about the rasa dance and everything, and suddenly he started crying and tears were coming. And it turned out that he had put, secretly or something, some chilies up his nose, so that the tears would come, and later on, behind the stage, he started pulling the chilies out. This is the level of things that are going on, and much worse. So a good part of Prabhupada's mission was to be the genuine, Prabhupada called the transparent via medium, or via media. Actually, it's just a transparent medium. A via media is a middle way, that you travel on. But anyway, that the meaning is the same. The medium or the channel, channeling, like to genuinely channel Krishna's, words, doesn't mean it has to be identical. Of course, he put it into English, and he explained it in these invaluable purports. Otherwise, if you just get of course, if you get the Sanskrit, we don't have anything, It's not Japanese, it's not English, well, I don't know what it means. But, so he put it into English. It wasn't perfect English. He eventually attracted a few editors, to put it nicely. And so then it became accessible. So in those books that Prabhupada was distributing, there was the actual manifestation of Krishna in those Bhagavatam books, and they later expand to all the literature we have. So, but then there's the question of the receiver, the means of approach. We've distributed hundreds of millions of books, but many of them may end up on the shelves, many of them end up in the trash, many of them are read a little bit, so I can't understand what that's all about, they put aside. So it depends on the receiver, how one is willing to make the effort to understand and find someone who can explain things and so forth. So that's why these classes are so important, because Prabhupada wanted us to culture this knowledge. Why is the knowledge so important? Because we're trying to control the lower self by the higher self. And that higher self is basically your intelligence. The intelligence is its closest thing to the soul, And you look at you got the false ego, but the intelligence is really the key. That's the special thing that human beings have. So if the intelligence is purified by hearing and enlightened by hearing, you get the spiritual strength to control that lower self and tell the mind and the senses, no, we're not going there, we're going there to the Harekrishna temple. And then the senses get exposed and suddenly you get attracted. Then everything starts going nicely. So that's what Prabhupada is, giving us here. So let's go through the part I read. Bhagavad Gita, not even, so how to understand the Lord. You have to come in contact with the genuine representative of the Lord and with the right attitude. So then the whole idea of the marginal energy, and this idea of the marginal energy is so important because that's who we are. We're not manifested by the marginal energy, but we actually are the marginal energy. That means our constitutional position is to be marginal. And that means, we have the letter to prove it, this was Prabhupada's understanding of it, is that we're always marginal. Even in the spiritual world, we have the capacity to leave the spiritual world and to become illusioned. Now, I just heard today, Prabhupada in a lecture this morning, how this question was coming up, it always comes up, well, how did we come here and so forth. And Prabhupada said, you're actually still there. We're all in the spiritual world, but we're absorbed in this illusion and we can't understand it. We don't understand that all of this energy is Krishna's energy, and therefore ultimately everything is spiritual. It becomes material to us when we artificially separate it from Krishna and we try to exploit it for our own benefit. So the whole thing, when we say going back to God, it really means waking up. Falling is like falling into a deep sleep and dreaming all of these lives separate from Krishna. And going back to Godhead really is waking up. This is described in Prabhupada's famous essay called the Crow and Tal letter. Why? It's a great mystery. But anyway, I don't know if we'll get into that right now. But he's talking about this fall from the spiritual world. So he describes it there that formerly we were with Krishna in his Leela or sport. That's a direct quote. So what happened? Well, we somehow or other developed some envy. Yacha dvesha. We wanted to enjoy ourselves and we were averse to serving Krishna. That's dvesha. And that's the beginning of the whole thing. So, and now we're dreaming all these lifetimes, different species and everything else. And that dream can go on a long time. But when we awaken and actually go back, we just like wait. It's just like a split second. It's like inconceivable. The malleability of time, from even on the material planets, Brahma's minute is different from ours. Famously, when he stole the cows, the calves, and the boys, he put them into mystic slumber. He wanted to test Krishna's mystic power. So Krishna manifested. He expanded himself into an identical set of boys and calves with all their idiosyncrasies, so even the mothers wouldn't know, right? And then for a whole year he's doing that, But that year was just a moment for Brahma. After he did it, he said, "Oh, maybe let's see what's going on." And by just his doing that, it's a whole year down here. So time is malleable, and I'm telling you, the sense of time as you get older, everything just flips. The calendar just keeps flipping faster and faster. I don't know if you remember what it was like when you were 5 and 6. It's an eternity, right? Your brother is 8 years old and you're only 5. Oh my God, when am I going to get that old? I'm not 5. I'm 5 and a half, 5 3/4. Time goes much slower. It goes and gradually speeds up. Well, time is going the same speed, but our sense of the passage of time changes. So when you even leaving this body, and even if we're going to the other place, it seems like a long time. You're there for millions and millions of years, but it's actually not. It's just that the suffering is so great. But anyway. So when we go back, all of the time in the material world will shrink down to practically nothing, and we'll be back in the spiritual world. And Krishna assures us we won't fall again. Once going there, you don't come back. It's several times in the Gita. He says, "Yudgatvananavartante tadama paramam mama." So what does that mean? That's puzzling because, well, how do we get here? I mean, if we were there, because Prabhu used the analogy. There's a saying in English: "Once burned, twice shy." So once, Prabhupada used the analogy of the little child. He's curious about the fire, and the father said, no, don't put it in the oil. So he said, okay, do it. So he puts it, pulls it out, and never again, right? Because you have that memory, oh no, I'm not going to put it in the fire. So we've been here, and even though we're not going to be dwelling on what our experience is here, we'll have the sense of, okay, I don't want to do that again. That's you don't come back. But you still have the capacity to come back, but you won't come back. Krishna says you don't. He doesn't say that there's no impossibility of coming back. The possibility is there because we're constitutionally marginal. That's our nature, is that we have the capacity to go either way. And bhakti means consciously, willingly going Krishna's way. That's what love means. It has to be voluntary. It can't be forced. So that's why he gives us this minute independence. So let's see. Let's finish this purport. So we each have certain qualities and powers that are meant for Krishna's service, and that's what bhakti is. Whatever facility we have, we may have more physical strength than someone else. We may have more, IQ. Doesn't matter. It's the quality of your heart and sincerity that Krishna is looking for. That's what counts. How much? That's why famously Prabhupada said, Krishna is not looking at what you give him, but it's what you hold back. Because in other words, a little child who's giving everything, or the famous building the bridge to Lanka, where Ramchandra had, okay, now we're going to build this bridge. You just throw the boulders in, I'll make them float. All right. So Hanuman and all of the the monkeys, there were more than monkeys. They're throwing these huge boulders in, and they're floating, and the bridge is going right. And there's a little squirrel, or sometimes it's a spider. He's getting his little piece, throwing it in, throwing it. And Hanuman, he's a devotee, so he doesn't want to step on him or anything. He said, "Will you get out of the way? You're impeding the service here. We got these boulders coming. We got, And Ram says, "No. He's doing as much as you, because he's doing 100%. He's making the same effort you are with his little, twig that he's putting in there. So it's the percentage of what you have that you're giving to Krishna that Krishna's looking at. And so that's where the ahoitukiya pratiyata, no material desire, the unalloyed aspect. That unalloyed bhakti is what really produces all of the experiences we read about in the books, where you're not mixing in, some material desire, 50% for Krishna, 50% me. Okay, 70% for Krishna, 30% for me, That's better, but when you get 95, 100%, that's when you feel really ecstatic. So, initiative. Here Prabhupada called initiative. He's using this word initiative to mean what independence means. He was talking about independence last night. That was the whole theme. So, we have our minute independence. Because Krishna has infinite independence, he gives us, we're part and parcel. So that independence, basically, this is whether we're going to agree or turn our attention toward the material energy or toward the spiritual energy. What energy we want to be influenced by. Now, it's just like an addict, You have your freedom. You're gonna take the drink or you're not gonna take the drink. Go with your friend to the bar or not go with your friend to the bar. But because we're minute, we get influenced by the modes of nature and so forth. That's why Sangha is so important. Deciding who and what you're going to associate with, because that will influence your decisions of what to do and how you act. But once you make a decision and you actually act in a certain way, then that has repercussions. That restricts your independence a little bit. Just like the addict, he or she made a decision to take that drug, but after a certain point, and there's very little free will involved. You're forced to go this way. You have to be forcibly taken to rehab and kept there, so that you can somehow kick the habit. So the independence is increased or reduced according to how much we're actually serving Krishna. The great devotees, like Narada Muni, he can go anywhere. He can go in the spiritual world, material world, anywhere. So that he has freedom just like Krishna, basically. He's given all this freedom. So that independence is our original independence is choosing which energy to be influenced by. And that's why the intelligence is so important. We choose what to read, what to hear, who to hang out with. And that will form our intelligence. We'll have certain ideas and understandings. And on the basis of those understandings, we'll act. And 99.99% of the people have all these material influences, and in different modes of nature, they're choosing to act within the realm of matter and staying bound up. It may be the A prisoner, B prisoner, they may be in solitary confinement, but they're still in the prison. We want to get out of the prison entirely, and that means we want to move toward having the soul influence Krishna's will and the internal energy. That's what will really bring us satisfaction. So this Isopanisad is very concise. It's only 18 mantras and one invocation. And so he's running through a lot of things. He's describing Krishna now in these verses. And at the same time, Asuya Namate Loka, what did we have? The killer of the soul, whoever may be, must live in the world of the faithless. This kind of little, what do they call it? Fire and brimstone. He's warning us here. But then the end, there's these beautiful verses of prayer where he's praying, please remove your effulgence so I can see your face, your beautiful form. And this is Upanishad. Generally, you don't see that so much in Upanishad. But Isha Upanishad means it's about the Lord. And Prabhupada reminds us at the end here that the summary of all the Upanishads is actually the Bhagavad Gita. That's why if you look in the Gita, you'll see it says Gita Upanishad right on the title page. Okay, any questions or comments? I think I went over time a little bit. Yes, Prabhu.
Just a quick question. So Prabhupada had mentioned how the Shastras warn us about the futility of speculating on the Lord's qualities. And you had spoken about that. You said one can, if they're speculating, they can mix in their material desires with their theological ideas. But
100%.
Can you expand on what comes about the result of that a little bit more? Why it's such a
all kinds of the beginning of the Bhagavatam, second verse, Dharmak Projita Kaita Votra. There's various ideas mentioned. It's a very rich verse. So here he's saying that in this Bhagavatam, we're casting out, far away, projita, kaitava dharma, means cheating dharma. Now, what is that? That is materialistic focused dharma, which may go by the name of worship of God, but whose motive is material. And Prabhupada would point out, and I think he mentions in the purport, that that's even up to the point of liberation, especially, merging in, this merging, that Mayavad. So the idea is that this is nicely described. You look in the purport to text 10 of chapter 4, Vitaraga Bhaya Krodha. There's a nice analysis of why, of those things which block us from surrendering to Krishna, but which result in various philosophies. The Mayavadis, for instance, who are often attacked in Prabhupada's books, rightly so. So their idea is motivated, that Mayavad is motivated by fear. Fear of what? Fear of having a form again. Because we know this form is a source of misery. That much intelligence they have, which is a lot, but it's not sufficient. So material body of any kind is a source of suffering, birth, death, old age, and disease. No matter what your highfalutin philosophy may be, that's a given. So, since form means this body, therefore the goal must be to be formless. They negate the idea of personality in the get-go. That's what Mayavadi means. This nice deity we have, beautiful deity, no one walks in here and thinking, oh, what a nice statue. Someone may walk in there, the first time, not knowing anything. But those who come here, they come to see Krishna, right? We come to see Krishna. We take pleasure in, he's smiling at us. Oh, Hare Krishna, and prayer. Prayer means there's somebody out there. In other words, we understand it's not just but the Mayavadi said, oh, that's all Maya. Look, it's stone. You guys are crazy. And that Hare Krishna mantra, that's just ordinary sound. This is mentioned as a verse describing that this is anyone who thinks this is living in hell. There's a whole list. Anyone who thinks the water that washes the feet, the Charanamrita, is ordinary water, that the Hare Krishna, the holy name is ordinary sound, that Vaishnav is according to where he's born, that we should judge him. That already living in hell. So the idea is that because they're afraid of form again, therefore their philosophy says, no, the ultimate goal is formless. And they build the whole thing up like that, and they try to base it on the Vedanta Sutra. So the answer to your question is that when there is not the genuine article of philosophy and understanding and knowledge, but it's affected by the modes of nature and by material desire, then you get a semblance of dharma, which is more dangerous than adharma, because people get bewildered. That's why it is said that in this age, Kali Yuga, manda sumanda matayo. Sumanda matayo means misguided, unlucky. They're unlucky because they're misguided. Where do you go to get genuine? Well, that was Prabhupada's whole point. I'm going to come and give the genuine thing. And it's up to Krishna to make it successful. And the whole thing is a miracle. This whole movement is a total miracle. And if you read the history of how it came about and grew and it's still going on. So the answer to your question is, this is the great battle that the genuine Vaishnavas have, is to give the genuine article, show by example how to live by that philosophy, and then propagate it as much as possible for the benefit of all. But there are constant distortions, even of the Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy. The history, Bhaktivinoda resurrected it after, a couple of hundred years, centuries, where it had been eclipsed by those who were not taking it as it is, meaning that they like the chanting of the Hare Krishna, and they like the dancing, they like the prasadam, but they don't like the Shastra, and they certainly don't like the four regs. So you can mix it all together like that. You're not going to get Krishna, but you can certainly bewilder a lot of people, right? There's people today, it's rampant. I like those Hare Krishnas. I like the chanting and dancing. I certainly like the food, But I'm not about to give this up and this up and this up. We'll go to Bhakti Fest. I'm telling you, I'll end on this. This was a shocker for me years ago. One of my last trips to Mayapur. I discovered, after many years, that there was a theater underneath Prabhupada's Samadhi tomb. If and when you go there, have you been to Mayapur yet? If you go, of course, the TOVP has taken over everything. That's like, awe-inspiring just to be 10 miles from it and see it on the horizon. But for years, there was Prabhupada's Samadhi, which was like the most amazing thing there as it rose, And so underneath there, they built a theater, maybe a couple of hundred seats, I didn't even know about it. But then they asked me to perform something. My Indranila Manjula Varna, there was the guys that came and they said, oh, you'll do it on the stage. I said, okay. So we went down there, and there was some other things that were coming before. And one of the things that came before was a video that was put together. This is right in Mayapur. I'm not going to say who made the video, but the substance of it was bhakti, But I swear, I don't even know if they mentioned Krishna in there. It was just bhakti is love, And there were a bunch of yogis who came on there who were not actually Vaishnavas and did speak. I said, how did this happen? Because in other words, everyone likes love, right? It's love. And we'll make it spiritual. But the whole thing is you have to first start with, who is God and what we are and what all of this attachment apart from God is producing. That produces the suffering. Anyway, it was a bit of a shock. And this was produced by someone who was initiated devotee. But they'd gone into some place, and produced this. And it's kind of, you get on the bridge where you don't want to present Krishna consciousness, because it's too much, but we'll present various aspects of it, and then bring people across the bridge. But instead, you get stuck on the bridge, and you get even drawn onto the other side. So this is, you have to be ready to give it as it is, even though you may not get so many takers. People get, So, but there's a way of presenting, so that you don't give everything at once, but you have to always remember where you're coming from, and that you don't let it get deviated. It's an art. So that's what happens when the actual Dharma gets contaminated and diluted. It turns into something else, and this movement is all about as it is. The mood is Bhaktivinoda and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and Srila Prabhupada's mood. So. And if we give the genuine thing, then ultimately that will be victorious. That Krishna's behind it. All glory to Srila Prabhupada.